Hey. Welcome to 2025 and welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You. I am super excited to start season 3 off as we are doing new you, new me, new everything resolution wise. We're all trying to do something fresh for ourselves. You guys know how it goes. Resolution. And so as we're on that page of trying to do things new, I am doing an episode today basically called Loving Me Mindset Shifts for Self-Worth. And I am joined today by a new friend. Her name is Miss Debra Hillard, and she is here to assist us in this journey as we are walking through how we're going to learn to love ourselves with mindset shift and talking about self-worth. If you're wondering how is she even qualified to do such of a thing, it's because she's an artist as well as a life coach, and she's helping individuals on her day in and day out transform their lives through the power of artistry and uniqueness and different things and spiritual journeys. So she's got all the tools, guys. Just listen in, get excited, and get ready for the journey. Welcome, Debra.
Oh, thank you so much, Tammy. It's a great way to start the year.
Tell me about it. Towards the end of last year, I started a series on TikTok called Preparing for the New You, and just talking to people every day about being prepared for self-love, because a lot of us are learning to love ourselves a little more. And I just felt like sometimes we just need to be prepared. A lot of times we jump on a journey and just jump in, just feet first, no preparation. When we get ready to start for resolutions, it's like the first thing everybody puts down is what? I want to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get healthy. And I say all of those things are great. But if you haven't started the foundation of loving yourself first, those things are not happening. Like, even though those things are a part of the self-love journey, you have to make up in your mind first that you want to love you, that you want to love yourself to that extent that making those changes actually stick, right?
Well, I I stopped making resolutions because I found that I rarely kept them, and all I did was disappoint myself. And what I realized along the way was that I resolve every day now. It's not when the new year comes or when my birthday comes. It's really more of shifting my way of perceiving myself so that every day is a new opportunity to reinvent myself, to take better care of myself, to love myself more, as you said. I am turning 72 soon, and I've got enough years behind me of lack of self-love that I can say without a shadow of a doubt that the main thing that has shifted my life is embracing myself fully as who I am and releasing, really letting go of all of the upbringing that I had that taught me that loving myself was selfish, self-absorbed, bad, wrong. You were not a good person if you loved yourself. Everybody else had to come first. I tried that, and it got me sick. It got me unhappy. It put me in a bad marriage. I am not willing to treat myself like that any longer.
Absolutely. When I started my self-love journey, I had gone through so much stuff too. I had gone through, so I wouldn't even say that my marriage was a bad marriage, but it was more so like unfulfilled. And a lot of times when you are in an unfulfilled space, you're always searching for, how do I get that little empty hole filled with something? Even if it's like, I have everything, what am I missing? You know what I mean? It's like, I was missing me though. Like,
Yes.
ultimately, I was missing me. I
Yeah.
was so busy people pleasing. I was so busy doing things based upon what I thought other people wanted and what other people actually wanted. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
even just, you know, the thought of what they wanted. Because a lot of times we as women, we have the habit of creating a narrative in our own mind and writing the story, living the story out, interacting with people, adding feelings and all these things to it. And it doesn't even exist. But even outside, like even outside of us doing those types of things, it was more so like I was missing who I really wanted to be. I could remember as a kid, like saying, this is the things that I wanted to do. This is the timeline that I wanted to do it on. And I'm typically one that does things according to what I say for the most part. But even in doing it, I still felt like there was something missing. And I tell people all the time, I got a divorce because I discovered myself. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
it's
I.
like, it doesn't always have to be that it's something bad or horrible. It's really like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the era that I was brought up in, that was not even a question to ask yourself.
Mm,
Um, Now, to me, it's primary. That's what I ask everyone I work with. They walk into my studio and they engage with the pieces that I create. And the whole process is about them remembering who they
mm.
are. If you don't have yourself, if you don't know who you truly are, you're no good really to anyone else.
Tell me about
And
it.
all of those resolutions, the whole thing about losing weight, getting exercise, eating better, doing whatever is it becomes a way to fix yourself up because you think something's wrong with you rather than a gift that you give yourself because you know that you deserve the very best.
I
That's
love
why
that you just said it was
resolutions
a
don't
gift.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you
We
said it was a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift. We are gifts. That's what we have to remember is that we are the gift that we offer others. And by taking care of ourselves, by knowing ourselves, by loving ourselves, we have even more to give. But people only really want us.
Hmm.
We think they want us to be something that we're not or to give something that we have. They want us. They want our time, our attention, our love, our energy.
Yeah. A lot of times, though, sometimes, like I agree with that, but then I also think about sometimes they don't want us because they don't know us, right? And a lot
Mhm.
of times they don't know us because we don't know ourselves. So it's like, what is it that we're giving in these different relationships when we don't know who we are, right? So when I think about doing a mindset shift and I think about my self worth, what is the essence of self worth? How do I find it? How do I pinpoint I'm worth this? Am I worth this over here because someone else told me, or am I worth this because I'm worth it? You know what I mean?
Well, we are all worth everything the moment we're born. There is no one person being worth more than another.
Mm-hmm.
Discovering self-worth is discovering our actual birthright, our essence. We were
Mm-hmm.
born worthy. We were born lovable.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to do something to become that. We are that. But we forget along the way. We forget very easily, usually because we're brought up with either, parents, teachers, whoever that tell us you're
Mm-hmm.
not this, you're not enough of that, you're too much of that, whatever it is. And we believe it.
Yeah.
And then we have
Because
to spend our whole life unlearning what they
that
taught us.
part, that part. Because I was about to say, what would make us not believe it? You know what I mean?
I
What
can
would
tell you. I can tell you. I can believe me. I can tell you. I can give you a whole long list.
what but I'm saying when they're teaching it, right? Because I also work with single moms who are trying to unlearn what they were taught, that they are now trickling down to their
Yes.
children and realizing in the midst of it, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, well, why would you have ever thought different when you are gaining this information from people who are supposed to love you?
Well,
People who are
that's the whole key. They're supposed
right.
to, but
They're supposed, but a
we
lot
are
of times they don't
damaged.
know no better.
Well, no, we are damaged human beings giving birth to other beings. We then raise them, giving them the damage that we were raised with. And unless we wake up and do the work on ourselves, we're going to keep passing that on.
Absolutely.
It's really up to us. If we're mothers or fathers, our main job is to do the work on ourselves, because our kids are going to emulate everything that we are, not what we say necessarily, but what we are.
Absolutely.
My parents told me a lot of really negative things about myself, but what I learned from them more than anything was the example that they set. I was raised by two parents who had no clue who they were. They were very unhappy, very unfulfilled, traumatized by their own parents, and they just passed that down because they didn't do the work on themselves. That's how we learn, by example.
Yeah. What do you think is, and I'm going to see how to phrase this, when we have the aha moments, or some people never get the aha moment, right? But what are signs or things that people can say, you know what, I might need to check into that to see if I have something I need to unlearn, if my self-worth is tied to other people, if, you know what I mean? Like, what are signs or symptoms or just tips that you would give to someone that says, hey, you might want to dig a little deeper. You may want to do your own in-depth journey on realizing or figuring out what your self-worth is.
It depends on the stage of life they're at, what I would say. I find that very often when someone gets into a serious relationship, those things get triggered, because our relationships are real mirrors for us. Okay. So if something isn't working in a relationship, now it could be a business relationship. It doesn't have to be, a love relationship. It could be a friendship. It could be a business relationship. Whatever it is, if there is a relationship that you're in that's relatively close and it's bringing up, there's some friction there, that person, I guarantee you, is mirroring something in yourself that you're not okay with. Now, it could be that they're triggering something from your past that was traumatic for you, and you need to look at that. It could be that they are so similar to you in a certain way that it's like literally like holding up a mirror, and you don't like what you see, and you have to look at yourself first before you can point the finger at them. So I find that relationships are generally the maybe the first real sign that something's not right. But even before that, I remember when I was young, very young, I had a sense early on, call it a sixth sense, that what I was being told it's like something didn't resonate. It didn't sit right with me. I was too young at the time to do anything about it. But as I got a little bit older, had I had a little more guidance, instead of rebelling, I might have really looked inward. I think so much of it depends on who we surround ourselves with and the guidance and support that we get when we start dealing with these things at whatever age. I know people who in their 70s and 80s still have not taken a look at themselves. Mm-hmm. They've managed to get away with it. They've buried themselves in whatever kind of way they medicate, whether it be too much TV, too much, buying, spending time on social media all the time. I mean, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But anyone who has any sense of, they can feel themselves, they can, any sense of awareness at all, relationships to others sometimes trigger before the relationship to yourself will mm-hmm. start triggering. I'll give you an example recently from my life. And this may sound silly, but I recently had an experience through one of the spiritual ceremonies that I went through mm-hmm. that it gave me this true sense of embodying the person that I truly am, finally, at my age. And as a result, I had gone to see someone who does energy work, and she noticed the change in me, and she said, everything in your life is going to start changing now, down to the things that you think you like and don't like. And she said, so what's your favorite flower? I automatically So recently I had an experience with a shamanic ceremony that I did that left me with the feeling that I was fully embodied as who I truly am. As a result, I went to up to Sedona in Arizona, where I live, and saw someone who does really incredible energy work. And she knows me pretty well. And she looked at me and she said, boy, you are really not the same person. She said, everything in your life is going to change now. And she just off the cuff, she said, so what is your favorite flower? And immediately I said hydrangea, because that was always my favorite flower. And then I stopped myself and I said, you know what? It's not my favorite flower anymore. And she said, so what's your favorite color? And we went on like this. And I realized that everything had shifted because I was fully myself for the first time. And so now it's showing up in the work that I create. It's showing up in everywhere. And I made a decision. I said, well, I'm going to go through my closet and I'm going to see what is me now. And I have taken out, I cannot believe, I think I've gotten rid of a third of what I'd had. I mean, some of these things I've had for decades. And I was sure that I loved them. But the difference is when I put it on, I knew it wasn't me. I still liked it, but I could tell the difference between what's me and what's not me. Now, sometimes I think that takes a great degree of maturity to get to the point where you really know what's you and what's not. Mm-hmm. Or maybe that was just me and I was a late bloomer. I don't know. But I do think it's possible early on in life, but it takes work.
It does take work. I remember, let's see, my son's been driving a good minute. So maybe it was like the summertime, somewhere like summertime-ish or whatnot. I was doing a TikTok and I was talking about how people pleasing really leads us to be what people want us to be versus who we really are. And a lot of times when you find out who you really are, it's eye opening to the point that it's like, wait a minute, just like how you said, that's not what I like. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it was presented to you and given to you by somebody you loved to the point that you took on the persona that they were presenting. And that's why I always say, like, when you learn to love you, there's so many things about you that you're going to be like, wait a minute, that's not who I am. Like, that's not what I want. Like, that's not
Yeah.
what I like, because you weren't tapped into you. You were tapped into other people,
Yeah.
versions of you that they've kind of created and you have bought into. And it's like, it's time to change stock. It's time to buy into you and figure out, who are you for real? So I'm always encouraging people that I interact with and that I coach. I say, hey, you have to date yourself. That same relationship that you want with a significant other, you have to first give it to yourself. Therefore, that's the only way you can be self aware of how you show up in spaces and places in other relationships. It's
Mm-hmm.
like being able to understand the volume that you create and that your capacity feels is very, 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 very important. I think a lot of times we just kind of go with what we think based upon what we see from other people, and we don't ever dial in to who is, like, what is it inside of me, which is where mindset and worth actually develop. But it doesn't come without having awareness. And it's like, if you're not aware of your quirks, if you're not aware of your disposition, as a clinical therapist, when I'm doing therapy, a lot of times I'm like, if everything that I'm thinking shows on my face, I should be aware of that, right? Because do you ever want to offend a client because you're having your own internal thought patterns about whatever the heck they're saying or whatever they're going through? No, you never want that to be the case. You always want to have the ability to self correct, be self aware of what you're displaying. And so, but if you don't know that about you, right? If you don't know that that's how you show up, then it's like, what are we really doing? Like, but you have to tap in. And I agree with you. It doesn't matter the age, but you should want to know who you are.
Yeah.
And a lot
Well,
of times people don't, you can say something like, for instance, if you got five, I used to say this, if you have five people telling you the same thing and the five people don't know each other, you are the problem, right? Like, you, and it's not even from the standpoint of it being
yeah.
bad, but it's just from the simple standpoint of that's who you are and that's what you do. If you date five different guys and all five of them don't want to deal with you because you do the same thing, then it's not the men, it's not them, it's you. And it's okay that it's you, but the question is, do you want to keep having that same outcome?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want that same outcome, then you have to tap into why. What is the why behind the you that you keep showing everybody else?
Wow, today's episode is a good one. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll get back to it shortly. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that Tammy would love for you to share any questions, comments, or topic ideas you have with her. All you have to do is send them to her in an email to podcast@IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
Well, I really love what you just said, because it's very easy to take that like those five guys were right about you and you need to change something. But what if you chose those five guys because you didn't feel good about yourself and you just kept recreating the
Mm-hmm.
same situation over and over again? And what you really needed to look at is, why am I creating this situation? Maybe I deserve more. You know,
Yeah.
I remember after my divorce, I was married for 27 years. And I dated for a while afterwards, and it was not wonderful. And I remember realizing a couple years after my divorce that the reason that I didn't have love in my life was not because I wasn't lovable, not because I didn't know how to love. It was because I wasn't willing to receive love. So the men that I kept dating they were all different versions of one another, showing me in different ways that they were going to treat me a certain way because I wasn't willing to receive love. I could only receive a certain kind of treatment, and it wasn't loving. And as soon as I shifted that, and I literally stood up and I said, I am willing to receive love. I am ready. That's when my current husband, who is like the love of my life, walked back into my life. And we've been married for like 18 years. And it's been fabulous, but only because I was ready and willing to receive. And I didn't know that about myself.
Did you have to pour into yourself first?
Yeah, I did. It took me years of being with him to get used to the fact that he saw something in me that I didn't see, that I was lovable, that I was worth everything that he wanted to give me. And after a number of years, I literally fell in love with myself. And that was really the key.
That's the key.
That's the key.
And it's the one thing that I'm so busy, like my passion is really to teach women, mainly single moms, because I feel like when you are single, a lot of times, and you have children, learning to love yourself, you feel so overwhelmed and overworked as a mother and a provider and trying to give to the kids that you get left on the sidelines. And it is, to me, the most important thing for a mom to do is to love herself and to show her children that with loving yourself, these other things kind of like happen naturally. Like, no is a sentence. It's not a suggestion. You know what I mean? Like being able to develop a set of boundaries that says this is how you are to treat me, because this is how I treat myself. And I think a lot of times when we talk about boundaries, we always talk about it for the sake of other people and the word of protection, etc. But it's really about yourself. Like, if you don't have a set of boundaries of how you should treat you, then you definitely don't have a set of boundaries of how others should treat you. As you mentioned before, relationships that we get into are normally reflections of who we are. You are in relationship with yourself all the time. It's in the subconscious, but at the same time, we don't ever see it that way. It's like always the other person. It's always the projection. It's always, you know what I mean? It's always them, 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 them. In reality, it's about you, 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 you. I had a client and I was actually doing therapy with her. I wasn't doing coaching. And so we were talking about how self-love is super important and seeing your own worth. And she was married, and she just could not understand why her children gravitated and loved the way her husband did things versus how she did things. And what we discovered was that her husband had a set of boundaries for himself. He didn't tolerate certain things from the kids. He provided structure for the kids, where for her, it was like, you need this. If I was doing this over here, I stopped what I was doing to attend to you because you were my child. I didn't keep myself up because I was thinking I'm keeping you up. And the kids had no respect for her whatsoever. And she didn't realize that not doing for her led them to not care about her either. And that they would misuse her time and misuse her as a mom. And I said, yeah, but what were you also teaching them? You're teaching them how to develop a self-worth for themselves by how you develop one for you. I said, where your husband, on the other hand, is teaching them, oh no, like I matter, my time is valuable, and you're not going to step on it, and you're not going to, just misuse it to your own abilities. And once she had that epiphany, she flipped the script, started putting, and she was like, the whole house is new. I said, I bet it is. I bet it is.
Yeah.
Because they're learning from what you do, not what
That's
you
right.
say.
That's right. That's right. It's what I was saying earlier about the way that I was brought up. I learned by example. Yes, they told me negative things about myself, but I saw how they were with themselves and with each other. Mm-hmm. And that's what formed, the role models for me of what relationships were, both with other people and with yourself.
Yeah.
My mother had no self-respect. She allowed herself to be treated poorly. So, words matter, but the example energy that somebody puts out is much more potent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% believe that words matter, right? They actually continue to help formulate and get you to where you want to go. But if you don't have the mindset about it, if you don't have the belief for it, you're not going to speak the words towards it. You know what I mean?
Well, if the words don't resonate, you can be speaking one thing and energetically putting out something else, so you have to live the truth, not just speak it.
Yeah. Yes. And you have to think about it. You have to believe it. You have to do all of those things. They all work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
They all work together.
And thing that I find about self-love, and this is more for women, but I see this with men too. When I was younger, I was very fit. I was a bodybuilder. I was a trainer. I did that for a number of reasons. One was to literally save my life because I had health issues, but it was also a way of me gaining some power in my life. But at the same time, it formed a shell around me that people responded to. They saw me, they looked at me and saw me a certain way, and I could hide behind that. Mm-hmm. And then as I got older and health issues came and I lost all the muscle and I lost the fitness and, couldn't hide behind any of that anymore, I thought that I was less valuable because I didn't have all of that. And what I've discovered is that in shedding all of it, I found my true worth. It has nothing, it is not dependent upon what I look like, what I produce, what I can do for anyone else. All those years thinking that my worth was based on, I had to look a certain way, I had to act a certain way, I had to be the strong one for everyone. All my clients turned to me for support. When I needed support, when I was falling apart, nobody was there. And I had to really find it within myself to detach from everything I thought I was, lose my entire identity before I could find my true worth. Yeah. It's easy to hide behind externals,
Absolutely.
And it's also because we externals as an excuse to why we're not worthy. I mean, it's not about the externals is what I'm trying to say. Has nothing to do with externals. Nothing.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us tie things into the tangibles, right? We tie it into money, possessions. We tie it into amount of friends, you tie it into how many invitations you got for the holidays. You know what I mean? Like you tie it into everything versus the pure essence of you.
Yeah.
And social media has a lot to do with it now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it would
TV,
be, yep,
magazines. Yeah.
TVs, and it would be the social experience, right? It
Mhm.
would be how many friends do you really have? Did you get invited to so and so's party? If so and so felt like they were the most popular of the group, all of those things played a role, and that's why I see sometimes adult life is more like still high school. You know what I mean? Like social media has allowed adulting to still be high school. And we don't ever adult. We don't ever grow into pure essence of being a solid individual because we're so busy
Well,
wanting the approval of other people to
yeah,
validate.
I wouldn't say we don't ever. It's work to separate from all of that and see it for what it is, but it is doable.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're
So,
doing it all the time. But I'm
yeah,
saying from a general perspective,
yeah,
the
it
reason most of us are
hard.
stuck is because
Yeah,
we don't do those things.
yeah.
Now, if it wasn't possible, we wouldn't be sitting here
I know.
having the conversation of enlightenment, right? But
Right.
yes, by all means, it's definitely doable. And I think it's doable at any age,
Yeah.
right?
I do too. It's never too late. It's never too late.
Never too late. You use art,
Hmm.
and tell us a little bit about like how the art is healing and transformative for the individuals that you actually work with and yourself.
Well, it started for me personally. I've been an artist my whole life, but it wasn't until in the year 2000 I had a very serious car accident, and I couldn't use the right side of my body for about a year and a half, and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to go back to doing the physical training that I was doing.
Mm.
So a friend of mine suggested that I pick up paints again because I hadn't painted in about 20 years. I'd been busy doing other things. And she said, just for yourself, just to help you heal. And I could only work with the left side of my body because my right side was so damaged. And I'm very, very right side dominant. So I picked up a paintbrush and I just started painting. Like I had no control at all. Because I couldn't use, I could barely feed myself with my left hand. And what started coming out looked so different than the hardcore bodybuilder trainer that I was,
Mm-hmm.
that it began to wake me up to the fact that there was another me in here that I was not expressing. And fast forward a number of years, and I kept painting and began writing on my paintings, and they were just showing me so much of who I was. And I very sheepishly showed some to my clients, and there were women in tears looking at my paintings. And I realized that there was something in what I was expressing that was touching someone else and opening them up. I think that was the first indication to me that art could not only be healing for me, but that it was a tool that I could use with others. So I started using it in my coaching with other people. And it was amazing to me what started to show up. That was, like 25 years ago. So fast forward, I have painted my way through my own personal journey of remembering who I am, of divorcing, remarrying, being a single mom, getting very ill, having to close my business, starting all over. I mean, it's just been a lot. But the painting was a thread that ran through everything. And it showed me, now I'm a very spiritual person. I have a very strong connection to my shamanic practice. And so I receive guidance and messages from spirit. It's part of how I work. And my paintings were showing me the guidance that I was getting. It was coming out in these images and the colors and the textures, and it just kept leading me like breadcrumbs to follow back to myself. In 2017, I got breast cancer, and it was pretty devastating. It was very devastating. And I found that going through treatment, I didn't have the physical wherewithal to handle my large canvases or even really paint much. And so I started working in fabric and doing hand beading. It was something that I've always been drawn to all my life. But again, it was one of those messages I got early on, like, you know, that's not real art. That's not, you don't do that. But I knew that to fully heal, I needed to follow what I love. Mm-hmm. And those days and weeks working on this project that I was working on, it showed me that there was something in there that I needed to pursue. And it led me to working with fabrics in a way that I take all of decades and decades of painting images, and I manipulate them and drew a piece here and a piece here and a piece here, and manipulate them so that they create incredible designs on fabrics. But it wasn't enough for me to just design the fabrics. I realized that in terms of healing, I needed to bring my art off the wall into a form that you could literally wrap yourself in, that you could feel the energy and the love and all of the codes that came from spirit through me into those paintings. Like you could feel them on your body. So I started creating blankets and pillows and wraps and serapes and poncho, all kinds of things that you could wrap yourself in and feel this energy. Again, I wasn't sure what it was going to do for anyone else, but I knew what it was doing for me. And like that time when I was just starting to show my paintings to clients and I saw how they responded, I started sharing some of these pieces with people. And I'm still a little speechless at how these pieces are affecting other human beings. But I have people telling me that have one of my blankets. I sleep with that blanket every night, and it has literally shifted how I feel about myself. And I have tripled my business as a result because I know my own worth. I have women who, from working with me one day to the next, look like totally different people because they get a feel for themselves out of wrapping themselves in these pieces, that suddenly they open up to a part of themselves that they had shut down for a very, very long time. This is my way of using everything that I have experienced on my journey, all of my work as an artist, as a coach, as a shaman, as a priestess, as a guide, putting everything together to create these transformational experiences through all of your senses, all of them. Because the shifts that we're talking about They're not just mind shifts. Our minds should be in service to our soul. And when we're not in touch with our true essence, our soul essence, this takes charge and it screws us up all the time. Because this is like a computer that has been programmed by somebody else. But when we can tune in through our body, our senses, and remember the truth of who we are, then we can shift everything. That is what has shifted things for me. Totally. And now
I 100% believe that belief system is the key, right? The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. But in that thought pattern, it's really about how he believes first. Like, you know, my mother used to tell me as a kid, what's down in the well comes out the bucket. But that well is your heart, it's your belief system. And if whatever you're believing, you're going to think, and whatever you think, you're going to speak. And whatever you speak, it shall be. And so when all of those things are in alignment and in connection, that's why the Bible tells you that you can speak things into existence. You know, the world was created through speech. And if that can happen in that instance, it can definitely happen in your instance, right? You can speak the things that you desire. And so this now running theme of manifestation is like running rapid over social media, over the airwaves. It's like manifest, manifest, manifest. And the reality of manifesting really is about the belief of who you are and where you want to.
Where that belief, it's a knowing. It's not a belief up here. It's a knowing.
It's in the heart. It's I am deserving of X, Y, and Z, and I believe that I'm deserving of it. And since I believe I'm deserving of it, I am going to behave as if those things are already in place, because you have to operate as if, you know, things that are not yet, as though they already are. You know what I mean? And if you operate as if they already are, then not yet becomes a reality. But we don't tend to do that.
I'll throw something else in here. There is no real time. Okay? There is no, it's going to happen. There is no tomorrow. It doesn't exist yet. What we have is right now. So if we speak to who we are right now, that creates our tomorrow. The declarations I made about myself a year ago created everything in my life right now, because I stated very clearly, this is who I am.
Correct.
Period. But
Correct.
I had to know it. I had to know it first.
Correct.
What you asked about using my art as a tool, I create all kinds of tools to, like, I have, this sits on my desk all the time. I have this is called a medicine bag, and I made it for myself, and I created it out of fabric that I designed, and I filled it with things that are reminders to me of who I am. They touch my senses. They're, something with a scent. They're things that have a certain feel. There's a little parchment in there in which I wrote the declaration of who I am. These kinds of things, tangible things, can be incredible tools in terms of transforming.
They're reminders.
Thinking of yourself, because you have these tangible things to remind you all the time.
Yeah, they're reminders. I think a lot of times we need the reminders when what they say, when the rubber hits the road and things are difficult, and it's like, I know who I am, but sometimes I need to be reminded of who I am when I'm faced with the adversity. And so I 100% agree that you should always have something as a reminder. be it a picture on your phone, something that you can physically, tangibly see. If it's a affirmation of what you tell yourself every morning with intentionality, like you have to be intent. Life is not meant to just be experienced from a standpoint of like, I'm just here. It's meant to be intentionally lived. And a lot
Yeah.
of times we are just experiencing it. In other words, we're just getting up and whatever happens, happens. No intentionality, no, direct. No, this is what I'm doing because this is who I am. This is where I'm going because this is what I want to do. There's no intentionality. And when I do coaching, it's like, what are your intentions of the day?
Mm-hmm. You have to
You,
participate, not just watch.
yeah,
Yeah.
active participate. Yes.
Play the game.
Yeah.
In the game.
You have to have intentionality all the time. So if someone was literally struggling with saying, you know what, how do I change my mindset? How do I identify my self-worth? What would be the advice that you would want to give them and how they can start that self-worth journey?
One of the things I would ask them is to try and remember a time as far back as they can go, to childhood if possible, when, and hopefully they will have an experience of something that they absolutely loved to do, to a way of being. It could be, a pet that they had. It could be being out in the woods. It could, whatever it is, but go back to a time before your mind took over, before all the programming told you who you needed to be. What did you love? What made you jump for joy? What was it that lit you up and got you out of bed in the morning because you couldn't wait to start your day? That's a clue that tells you this is a piece that's really essential in my life. It's like finding a breadcrumb that leads you on a path back to discovering yourself. Mm-hmm. But you have to start with experiences that happened before you thought yourself into being. When you were experiencing life. And that's usually pretty early on in childhood.
Yeah, someone may say, how do I know what that is? And I would say to that, when you're able to simply just jot down the things that make you feel alive. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, we don't know what feeling alive is.
Yeah.
So if you can't think that far back to when you felt liberated, free, excited, then I would say try doing something new. And when you actually get that feeling that you want, you're writing that feeling down and then thinking back to when was the first time I ever felt that? Have I ever felt that before? Some of you may say, I've never felt that before. And that's okay too, because it's okay to start in the space that you're in and not necessarily needing to retreat backwards. But to do that, it's a process of dating yourself, asking yourself the real questions that matter, and being honest about those answers. Yeah. No one is here to judge you, and you should not be judging yourself. No. So when you are digging deep to find your value and to find your self-worth and to do a mindset shift, you must be honest and open with you, because nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. If your goal is to find who you are, then your goal should be, by any means necessary, I'm going to discover my truth. And my truth lies in my self-worth, and it lies in the mindset shift that I must make in order to allow this journey to be successful.
It lies in your heart. You got to get into your heart. What do you love? What do you love? Because that's the first key to tell you a direction to go in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Debra, I want to first thank you so much for joining me. This has been a very enlightful discussion. I've enjoyed it.
Me too.
And I hope that as we are starting the year of 2025, that you guys are out there listening, can decide, you know what, I do have to open up to me. I do have to shift my mind. I do have to basically define my self-worth, find what it is, and live intentionally by it. If individuals wanted to reach you or get in connection with you, how would they do so?
Best way to do is probably through my website. Are you going to post the website link?
You're going to tell it to them now, and then we'll list it.
Is DK Hillard, HILLARD.com. DKHillard.com. And that will lead you to my writing, my fabrics, my paintings, all of it. You got that? Okay.
Give it to them one more time. Available.
Okay. It is DKHILLARD.com. DKHillard.com.
Awesome. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. You guys remember, your mindset, your self-worth is super, super important. And as we say over here at Loving Me Before I Love You, always love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.
Oh, yes. I love that. Thank you.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.